Hello and welcome everyone, this is Calebovitsch coming to you with another Storybook Brawl video. This is part 3 out of 4 from my mega super uber tier list for all heroes in the game. Heroes 17 through 24, at least that's how I numbered them on my list. And we're starting off with a special hero that is actually not what he seems to be. He is something else, something different. Twice. It is Mask. That says, when you reach level 3, get 2 spells that let you pick a new hero. So this is a very special type of a hero, as you can see on the asterisks and different things that are displayed on the left side of the screen. These 2 spells are basically, it was all a dream spell from level 6 that get to 2 slots, that go to 2 slots in your hand. Or on the bench, however you call it. That means you have to have 2 slots free there for Mask's ability to come into effect. And obviously, the first thing he wants to do on the first turn when he gets those spells is use one of them. This is also his spell cast for the turn, which means it is quite good for Mask to get an early Cinderella or Wizard's Familiar, because you know you will be casting something for free on round 4. Now, the early game is an asterisks because there is a whole category for every other hero that says mask into this as soon as possible. On the first 3 turns of the game, you have no special ability. So that would put it at a 1 out of 5. But then later, you can do something cool and amazing. Now, the variance here is quite high because you change into a different hero and then change into another different hero later in the game. And it is difficult to know which hero to turn into, and especially when to use the second spell that allows you to rechange into someone else entirely. Masking into Mask is impossible because you can only mask into heroes that are not currently in your lobby, in your Brawl lobby. You can turn into someone who has already died, and I had this some games ago, where there was a game when Morgan Le Fay died, and then a turn or 2 later, the player playing Mask used one of their spells to turn into a Morgan and get a treasure. Amazing, right? Right. If you dream into Mask on level 6, that means you get 2 rerolls of this on future rounds to other spells, but you have to have bench space to be able to get those. So if you get a really bad array of characters, you can choose Mask and just reroll. A couple of things I would like to note here about being able to choose other heroes and choosing other specific heroes. There are 2 very specific heroes that do something slightly different than that you might think when you turn into them. One of them is Skip the Time Skipper. When you turn into Skip the Time Skipper, your effect is gain 3 experience points. That's it. This is the best character Mask can turn into when he reaches level 3. And that is because that spell is a triple experience point spell. You're Skip, and on the next round, you're turning into someone else. Thank you. Good game. The second one is Grandmother. Whether it's Grandmother or Big Bad Wolf, if you turn into that one, you gain 10 health. And if you're level 6, your characters are +3/+3. So you have to know that. Another small thing about being able to choose characters. Once again, you can only choose, choosing heroes. You can only choose a hero that is not currently in your lobby. So let's step back to the beginning of the brawl. Okay, we're there. You have a choice between 4 heroes. One is the free one, Merlin, etc., etc. Pup and the others. One of them is Mask, and there are 2 others. You have to remember which 2 those are. Okay? Because there are currently 32 heroes in the game. There are 8 players, each is presented with 4 possibilities. And all 32 are different. All 32 are present and available. But that means if you are presented with 4 heroes, those heroes are not available to be chosen for other players in this whole brawl match that you will be playing. That means if you have a choice of Mask, Skip, Gwen, then choose Mask, turn into Skip, turn into Gwen, you know it's possible. Also, once you are Mask and you see who's in the lobby, if you know that Skip is not in your lobby, Mask as soon as possible and try to get, and just cross your fingers to get that Skip. And that's it. And obviously have fun, whoever you turn out to be. Next up we have, oh my goodness, looks rather evil, this Mordred. Mordred is a very special type of a hero, because his ability is quite special. The first time one of your characters dies each brawl, summon the highest attack character from your hand. The developers of the game said that this incarnation of Mordred is from them wanting to have a hero that has 8 spaces on the board, and it kind of does that in a very brawly way. But you have to remember that this effect also means you are summoning something, which means it kind of works with stuff like Reduplicator, the level 4 treasure. It also works with Bearstein if the thing you summon from your hand is an animal. Also remember, you're summoning the highest attack character from your hand, so you can set which character that is. All of that is quite difficult, and the difficulty for this one is a 4 out of 5, because this is one of the most difficult things to achieve. But the variance here, well, you have an 8th slot on the board, technically. Sure. Early game, this doesn't do anything because you don't have 8 characters more often than not. And at the end of level 3, you maybe have 1 additional, but it's usually something very small and immaterial, and it has almost no impact on the game. In the mid game, and especially in the late game though, having an additional spot on the board is amazing. It's like if you have Mordred and Monkey's Paw, you have to start with 6 characters on the board, but you get to summon something from your hand, so it kind of negates that drawback. So the later in the game, the more options you have, the more 8 combos you can gather, the better for you. For example, the thing you summon from your hand can be a Medusa or a Cupid. Just don't let it be an Echo Wood or an Ashwood Elm that doesn't get the beginning of Brawl synergies. When you mask into this one early on, not the greatest, but if you dream into it later in the game, you have that additional board space. Okay, move on. Let's move on to a family member of Mordred, that is Morgan Le Fay. Morgan says, when you drop below 20 health, so between 1 and 19, and when you drop below 5 health, which means if you have 1 through 4 health, pick a treasure off your level. So obviously a treasure type hero. Early in the game, it doesn't do anything, mostly because you're above 20. If you're below 20, by the end of level 3, it's not going too well for you. In the mid game, if you prog this ability when you're on level 4, you're usually getting something that can be a cornerstone of a strategy or another. If you can get a level 5 treasure, it's usually something really huge. And it, obviously, if you are greedy and get greedy, or rather, if you have a good standing in the brawl and you get the treasure when you're level 6, then you get some of the best things that are available in the game. And you know what the best upside of Morgan Le Fay is? If you don't use her ability throughout the brawl at all. That usually means you have won the brawl. But that sometimes can mean that you got sniped from over 20 health. Hopefully that doesn't happen to you. Anyway, variance here is kind of low. Difficulty is medium because you want to navigate. Sometimes you want to get a treasure, so you can make your board a bit worse so that you are barely losing, like from 23 health to 18 health to just get the treasure when you're on level 4 or something like that. And it is very noteworthy of the combos that are available here, and those are spells that either gain you health or that cause you to take damage. Because you can cast Forbidden Fruit, gain 1 gold, take 2 damage, go through the treasure threshold, get the treasure, and then later on you can cast a couple of healing potions, or you can cast the End, the current wording of which is eat one of your characters, gain 1 experience point, and gain health equal to the level of the character eaten. And if you go below 20, and then later you heal and go below 20 again, you get another treasure. So the combos with Morgan Le Fay are actually the treasures, also the treasures that gain you health, like Ring of Regeneration, like Hidden Stash, something like Ruby Slippers. You can try to combo with that, but later in the game you still have to replace them. When you're dreaming into Morgan Le Fay late in the game, it is usually one of your best options because more often than not you are below 20 health and you're just getting a level 6 treasure. How awesome is that? Okay, it's so awesome. Let's move to the next hero. And it is, a very scary one. It's Muerte. And Muerte says, your first last breath ability each brawl triggers twice. So it is a special type hero because no other hero has this ability and can duplicate that. But you have to check the number of last breaths that are in the game. And that number is quite low, especially in the early stages. Hence, early in the game, Muerte doesn't do much. The only last breath ability on level 2 is Black Cat. And that means you can get another 1/1. Whoop whoop. Well, unless you have Mim and good positioning. So, a bigger whoop whoop. But not the greatest. Then you get 5 less breaths on level 3, 5 more on 4, 4 on 5, and 3 on 6. There is something that you don't want to go for with Muerte, and that is Price Pick, because you don't want to give your opponents additional gold. But aside from that, it is usually fine. Like, if you get lucky when you're level 3, you can get the discount from the shop twice. It's good economy. But the biggest benefit of Muerte comes in the mid-game and the late game. Because if Muerte is able to get to level 5 faster than others, if he can find Wretched Mummy, the evil monster, that when it dies, when it triggers its last breath, it deals 4 damage to each enemy character. You're doing it twice, so it's 8 damage. If you can upgrade that, it's 16 damage. It usually decimates their whole board, especially if they're lower than level 5. And remember, in the lobby, you can see who you're fighting against. They have a golden glow or underscore or frame around their portrait. So you know that. Later, when you reach level 6, how about a good boy? Or stuff like that. I mean, sure, it also works with monster books. So yeah, it works with Grim Souls. So you have a lot of cool things going for you, but you have to wait till mid-game or late game. Variance here is quite high. It is 3 out of 5. Because as I said, there are not a lot of last breath characters that you want to be going for, especially, and those are usually in the mid-game and in the late game. So it is quite difficult to navigate this. This is one of the more difficult heroes to navigate. When you're masking into this, sure. I mean, you have to remember to get that Friendly Spirit or Grim Soul or something like that when you level to 4. When you reach level 6, this ability actually has high potential because you have access to good boys, you have access to those monster books, even to Wretched Mummies. I mean, if you have an upgraded Wretched Mummy and you turn into Muerte, that is really something. Okay, let's move on, and we have Pan's Shadow. The first evil character you buy each round costs 1 less. So this one is just going for economy. Or rather, maybe it's going for me. Anyway, so So yeah, going for economy, getting one additional gold because you're getting a discount. But the discount is only on the first evil character. So you have to purchase evil characters. The closest other hero that has this ability is the Cursed King, who has one discount, or rather 1 gold each round, but he takes 1 damage. This one can only spend it on evil. I mean, it is really good in the early game because it allows you to fill the board on levels 2 and 3 that much faster. Like if you can buy 2 characters on round 2, it is always good for your game plan because you're 1 step closer to dominating the board, because 3 is more than 2. 3 characters is usually better than 2 characters, so you can get a foothold in the early game. The later in the game it gets, the lower the value of this 1 additional gold is. It is not nothing, but for example, if you don't buy an evil character, you're like not doing anything with your power. The variance here is not the highest. I mean, sure, I've heard a lot of stories, and I had the personal experience of that myself, of having Pan's Shadow and not having any evil early in the game. And also you are limited only to going for evil with this. But again, more than a third of characters in the game are evil, so that's it. Difficulty here is really simple. It's no difficulty at all. See evil, buy evil, get discount. Masking into this early on is fine. In the late game, okay, it's like having a spinning wheel, an extra 1 gold to use. That's about it. So it's not bad. It's not costing you anything, but it usually isn't giving you that much more. Next up, we have Peter Pans. You start at level 3 and never grow up. Characters in your shop have +1/+1 for each time you would have leveled. And you can level beyond 6. You can level there is an additional like scroll in this space that says how many times you would have leveled. So you want to go for those leveling up spells, you want to go for adventures, etc., etc. So this is a very special ability. So this is a very special type of a hero. It has an alternate skin in the game now that is called Super Pan if you supported the developers of the game and bought the huge, uber expensive supporter package. And here I would like to, once again, to thank my valuable, my mostly valued supporters, Risper Visper and Sibling 2023, for supporting me with that huge, amazing package that I can now play as Super Pan. Super Pan! Thank you once again. Anyway, getting back to this one. This is one of the 2 most difficult heroes to play, in my opinion, but for me, that makes it one of the 2 most fun heroes to play as well. Early and mid-game. I mean, you start at level 3. Let's get back to that. You can only see level 2 and 3 characters throughout the game. That limits you by a lot, because you don't see those Medusas, you don't see those Wretched Mummies, you don't see those Cupids, you don't see those Scavenging Vultures. And especially, you don't see those level 6 characters that just outscale you. Obviously, you can work around that. I mean, you have runestones, you have treasure map, and you have blind mice, so you have access to level 4, 5, or 6 treasures. Sure. You can cast Kidnap or get Gloves of Thieving or Thieving Gloves to steal opposing characters that are of higher levels. That's fine. There's also a spell that is, I believe, the most important one for Peter Pans, that is True Love's Kiss. Turn a character into a random character 1 level higher. Okay? So that means if you have, for example, an upgraded level 3 that has grown because it was bigger in the shop or you did something with it, you have now an upgraded level 4. And then it can further go into level 5 and maybe even level 6. You can even use this to have an upgraded Ashwood Elm or an upgraded Good Boy or Jormungand or stuff like that. So it is difficult. The variance of doing that is really high because there are games where you literally do not see a single True Love's Kiss in any stores. There are a total of 27 different spells of levels 2 and 3. 1 in 27. So we have 3 point something percent, below 4% chance of finding that spell in a store. Anyway, early and mid-game, you have access to level 3 characters before anyone else does. And then your level 2 and 3 characters are bigger than the opposing ones. And your shop is not cluttered with levels 4, 5s, and 6s, which means it is theoretically easier for you to find multiple copies of those lower level characters for you to get the treasures. There is a ton of combos with this. I mean, Peter Pan's is a game, playing Peter Pan's is a different game, a totally different game. And I did a couple of Brawl Tech videos about this. You can rewatch them. You can just go through my YouTube playlist and see for all videos that have Peter Pan's or Super Pan as the depicted hero. And I've talked extensively about the strategies of those in those videos. Masking into Peter Pan's on level 3 doesn't give you anything. You're just 3 XP behind. Just don't go for it. But when you turn into Peter Pan's later in the game, when you're level 6, it's a totally different game. It's not nothing after the most recent patch, because you're level 6, and for each experience point you would gain, 3 experience points that you would gain, you get those buffs to the store. But those buffs are just +1/+1 and you're level 6, and usually they do not matter that much. At least it's not nothing. I mentioned some combos. A lot of combos were mentioned in the other videos. I would just like to mention 2 non-bows, or anti-combos, or rather something that doesn't work that well with Peter Pan's. And those are Trojan Donkey, the level 3 character, and For Glory, the spell. Both give you random characters. Trojan Donkey, when it's damaged and survives damage in the game. For Glory, if you win a round, you get a random character of your level. But they do not get the boosts from your shop. And everything else you have has though that +2/+2 or +5/+5 or +8/+8. So they are just really smaller, and it's not really working as it is for other heroes. All right, Peter Pan's storybook on his own. Let's move on to Pied Piper. Pied Piper says, your shop sells an extra animal. So, a very special ability, because your store has an additional slot. It is always for an animal. Given that the subset of animals that you can find there is kind of small, there are 20 total animals out of 90 characters, that means you have a higher probability of finding multiple copies of the same animal, thus getting a treasure. That's why I said it's a special /treasure hero. As well, yeah, you just can combine animals that much easier. Early, mid, late game, I put it as a 3 out of 5. Because what this ability does is it lowers your shopping experience variance. That's what it does. You have a wider range of things you can get, characters you can buy from the shop. So, the biggest ability of this one is lowering the variance to 1 and lowering the difficulty to 1. That's his biggest upside, in my opinion. Masking into it, dreaming into it, playing it, fine. Sure. If you know you're going for animal strategies, it is easier for you to find a good boy or a Bearstein or 3 big pigs or baby bear or something like that. Sure. And that's not nothing. But that's not stats. That's just lowering the variance and by upping the chance, the probability of you finding exactly what you want. It's not nothing. It's actually quite good. Okay, let's move on, because I see you're not really believing me. So try to play a Pied Piper, and then you will know that you're not stressed as much as with other ones, because you know you have a higher chance of finding exactly what you want. That's the prop for playing Pied Piper. And the last hero I wanted to talk about today is Potion Master. When you cast a spell directly on a character, give it +2/+2 permanently. Casting a spell directly on a character is casting a spell by taking it, clicking on it, dragging it onto one of your characters. Sorry. So that means Witch's Brew, Sugar and Spice, what else? Luna's Grace, Burning Palm, Burning Man, even stuff like True Love's Kiss, even stuff like Knighthood. So getting +2/+2, giving +2/+2 is huge, especially if you can target it onto almost any of your characters. Technically, it's not any. I'll get to that in a moment. In the mid game, it falls down a bit. You still are playing the stat game, but the stat gain on bigger characters is proportionally lower. In the late game, it isn't falling off by that much because you are still targeting your characters. You are giving specific ones the buffs. For example, Court Mage when you're playing Royals, or Good Boy when you're playing Good Boy. Good Boy and anything good. The variance here, though, is quite high. I rate it as 4 out of 5. I tried to sum everything up, and 18 out of 52 spells are spells that target something that you own. Well, one of them is the End, and you don't want to cast that because, well, then your character just is eaten. But roughly a third of the spells can be targeted, can target your characters. So why is this variance so high? Because most of these, or some of these at least, have a caveat that you cannot play it on anything. You can play some of them on good characters, some of them on evil characters, some of them on treants, some of them on princes and princesses. So there is that. There is that another step of variance of which spell you have and which characters you have. And that means it is semi-difficult to get a Potion Master going. I mean, the best way to get the Potion Master going is obviously getting Crystal Ball, the treasure, that allows you to recast a spell if you cast a targeting spell. And Potion Master is about casting those exact spells. Twinning Rod, casting those twice, getting the buff twice. Merlin's Hat, getting those those spells to be cheaper, so that they can be double cast with Twinning Rod. Or getting Wand of Weirding and casting them again, whatever their cost. So, yes, you want to hunt for level 3 and 4 treasures, because that is when Potion Master is at his best, and there's a huge difference between Potion Master with and without Crystal Ball. Okay? And that is also where the variance comes in. Masking into him early on is fine, but you are missing on the first 3 rounds or rather 4 rounds of value by not being able to cast those spells. And dreaming into him later on, unless you already have a Crystal Ball, I just wouldn't go for it. Seriously. No. Alright, this is it for the 3rd out of 4 videos in the Uber Omega tier list for Storybook Brawl, the hero tier list. Thank you very much for watching, and remember, if you are enjoying the content, click on subscribe. Okay? Okay. See you in the next one.